Welcome back to My Hero Academia Anime Review Episode 92. This is discussing the final episode of Season 5, which is episode 113 of the series, which is called The High Deep Blue Sky. And I'm covering also chapter 329. Now, this episode does finish adapting both chapters for 240 and 246. For 240, it was pages 213 and 15. For 246, pages 4 through 8. Which that chapter is from the Denver Agency arc. Yep, they cap off that, which is quite nice. They go through the entirety of chapters 256 and 257, and they go through partially of 258. Cover chapters 14, pages 14, 16, and 17. Now, the bit they covered here, where they finished chapters 240 and 246, that is covered in the first 5 minutes of the episode. We started off basically where we ended up last week, where we actually put in this episode, we see Hawks was actually at the big, humongous paranormal liberation army meeting. He was there. He witnesses everything, and then we see him talking to a woman who looks exactly like Ochaku. Yeah, I thought this is kind of weird. I think this moment was complete anime original, just chatting with these people, and they know he's number 2, so then, of course, they have him and Dabi, him walk off, and then we have sort of a flashback of him showing the body of Best Genius. Supposedly is his body, but he's like, don't exactly, but I'll let you in anyways. And then we have, briefly, the whole thing with Shigaraki, where he goes off to meet the doctor, where he basically asked him to begin the experiment. This actually is from the beginning of chapter 246. Now, the first portion of this episode, with the exception of a little bit of Hawks talking to a couple people, it's mostly spot on from how presented in the manga. No really major change here. So, they begin the experimentation, and that portion ends with the doctor at the hospital. They have him appear later on in the episode, where he's been welcomed back at the hospital he works at. Yeah, he's actually the chief doctor of this hospital called Jaku Hospital, and he's meeting up with a cat nurse. Yes, a cat nurse. It's probably her quirk. And pretty much like they welcome him back, and he goes off, and it's like, oh yeah, how's your research? Oh, it's going fine. And we see Shigaraki where he's been experimented on. He says this will take 4 months, and then we cut to the UA. Now, up until the last little bit of the episode, it's mostly the same, except that toward the end of the episode, we have some changes here. Mostly in the case of a couple of things in this episode. We just changed some dialogue. One scene, some actual dialogue was changed, and toward the end of the episode, they actually changed location of a conversation. Because, oh yeah, by the way, they actually changed the name of a room in the anime. You see, in the manga, where the room where you have All Might, Bakudo, and Deku, in the manga is referred to as the break room. For some reason in the anime, this is referred to as the nap room. I have no idea why, but yeah, that's the change. No idea why the heck this was changed for, but that's basically the way it was. And before we get to that scene, we start off with basically having the characters show off their quirks. There is actually an addition to the scene, yes, where there's a couple heroes they mention here. Like, they bring up the fact that various characters from various heroes, like Ochaku and Froppy, work for, I think it was the Shark Hero, I think it was. And of course you have, I think it's, actually they work for Ryu. They actually show her in the episode. In the manga, they don't show her face at all. Creative, they actually do show her hero. His name is Majestic, and he looks like a freaking Scarecrow man. Yeah, he actually makes his debut. I think that now, I was rereading the manga for this particular scene, and you actually don't see him in the manga. In the anime, the whole thing of showing him, that's complete anime original. That actually, that little image you saw in the episode, that actually is not from the manga. It's completely original. Heck, even Ryu, like showing off her, that was also completely original. Oh yeah, they also know that, well, Hulk's on hiatus. And we have various characters with various quirks. And, well, first we have, I think it's supposed to be the Laser Man. And I think the other one is, if I remember correctly, I know Pinky's also in the scene too. She does something. But I think it's Invisible Girl. Yes, it's the Laser Man. It's the Laser Man. I call him Laser Man. That's what I call him. He's the one who speaks French accent. Him and Invisible Girl work together to destroy some robots. And then we have Pinky destroying robots with her Acid Man. And then she talks to Red Riot, where her mode is actually inspiration from his hardened mode that he has, which he's a bit taken aback by, but he seems pretty happy with the fact that he inspired someone he knew back in middle school. I have this ridiculous theory that him and Pinky have a thing for each other. Yes, I have briefly talked this to us with Ochaku's voice actor, Lucy Christian. She completely buys it. And also various other characters, including, well, Dinky got a chance to show himself off, Earjack. Basically all the characters got a chance to show off. Deku uses Black Whip for the first time, of course. He also, this is of course right after he saw Ochaku use the grappling hook that was attached to her gauntlet. Which, from his perspective, this is the first time he actually has seen the damn thing. Which, great reaction that they did in the anime, and they briefly have a chat about it. Now, I'm wondering, like, where the heck is her dome on her helmet? Did the animators forget to put it in? No, this actually is the same as in the manga. I think that they either they forgot to notice the fact it wasn't there. I mean, she has it in the manga, like prior to this, even the anime. Some reason she's not having the little dome part of her helmet because she got a new helmet. Because what happened after the joint training arc, she had to get a brand new helmet. And everyone, all the viewers know that she has a thing for Deku. It is so obvious. I mean, it's been plainly stated that she's got feelings for Deku. Deku, I think it's implied that she does. And of course, there's callback training arc, which I do appreciate that because I do enjoy that particular arc. I will get to my final thoughts on this whole season in the very next episode. So, they show briefly in a flashback of her blushing, which I thought was quite nice. And of course, that apparently, kind of like where Pinky got inspired for her form from Red Riot, Ochaku got the inspiration for her wire from Deku's Black Whip. Which, cool. I think that's really nice, the fact we have two girls, one of whom definitely has a thing for the guy that she's with, and the other one, I think she does. And I think that's absolutely fantastic that the girls in the class are taking inspiration from the guys. Which, that is great, the fact that the anime presents that really well. And then later on we actually have a meeting with All Might, Bakuto, and Deku where they talk about the previous host. And of course he does bring in the fact that there's not much information on host 2 and 3. And when he brings up who the fifth host is, of course, Bakuto reads up on him in the book. He's like, I've never heard of this hero before. And I think with the exception of probably the sixth one, which was basically, actually was seventh one, which was All Might's mentor, which they bring in the episode that next quirk he's had to learn, or at least unlock, is Float, which is his master's quirk. Which, I should point out though, I think it was during the joint training arc, he did note to All Might that she was very beautiful, which he agreed with that. She definitely was. In my opinion, she was smoking hot. And this woman is the grandmother of one of the main villains of the series. Seriously. So, right after that meeting, and then of course they have like a special pot party at the dormitory, where not exactly smoking pot per se, basically of meat, vegetables. It's like cooked pot stuff. It's a tradition in Japan, from what I can tell. I'm not really, because it's mostly like just meat, like some beef, potatoes, vegetables. Seems like it was a really good meal. And Of course, yeah, Invisible Girl hiding the best, which I thought was quite hilarious. And of course, you have Tom and I were sitting next to Deku asking for the sauce a couple times, and he says, "Please pass it." It's like, oh, here you go. Sorry about that. It's like he's thankful for being around. Like, sorry about that. And then we cut to seeing, like, of course, everybody's having so much fun with this food. Of course, and Jenny was making the fact that finals are coming up, which that's quite good. Yep. And then we see. Well, before this, I should mention, before this party happened, where we see President Mike, who is lying on his belly. Yes, he's lying on his belly on one of these very special couches. I got one of these type of couches in my house. Except this one doesn't have a back in front of the long parts. And of course, just relaxing for a bit. And then we have Lemillion and Sunday come in, and he apologizes. Now, here's the thing. In the manga, I think they mentioned that they were basically like off hours. In the anime, they mentioned they were actually on their break, which that doesn't make much sense given the fact that Lemillion is not wearing a school uniform, neither is Sun Eater. That I thought was a weird change. I'm not really sure exactly why Funimation thought it was a good idea to change that line. Mentioned, oh yeah, despite the fact in the manga, like I said, they are off hours. In the anime, on break. And the reason why they basically contact him, because Aries' horn is itching. It looks like it's growing bigger. Which, yes, it is that happened in the manga. And you might ask, is there any follow-up to this? Yes, there's actually one brief follow-up of this in the actual arc that this is set in. But it's handled in a flashback. Though it involves Lemillion. And then we have All Might sitting outside when it's cold out. Yes, it's still cold. And we have Eraserhead, where they're talking about Eri, which I should point out that in the manga, All Might just calls her Eri. In the anime, he refers to as young Eri, which I don't have an issue with that compared to the other one, because that's what he calls a lot of the kids. Like, he calls Deku young Midori, he calls Bakudo young Bakudo. And he calls Shudo young Tamarari. Which, I don't have a problem with that, because basically that's how Christopher Sabat has played this character. Yeah, not really big an issue with that. Where he says he'd be happy to help teach Eri how to control her quirk, which Eraserhead basically was going to ask about that, and of course they agreed. And then later on, we actually kind of head a little bit. Now, this next bit is actually a change location. Same dialogue, same exact dialogue, except change location. In the manga, this scene took place in the dormitory. In the anime, this is basically in the springtime. I guess they figured though, I guess Bones would figure, okay, since it's springtime, why not sit outside and have some sakura trees, typical Japan. And of course, they mentioned about this particular special trip of the mission upcoming. And then later on, we cut to seeing them just outside the city. They would have the major battling that would take up pretty much the entirety of the arc that this episode started adapting. And we see Burn, and we see everybody in their uniforms. And that's it. That's how the season ends. It's by far a really good episode. I at least got handed to the anime. Everything was good. I think the change location made total sense. The other thing I did not like about the episode, it actually was a couple minor things. One was a big thing, the other was a small thing. The small thing I didn't like was changing break room to nap room. I thought that was kind of stupid. I'm not sure why the heck Funimation did that for, because I know they do translate this thing in English. But that's a minor thing. The other is basically changing actual dialogue. This made no frickin' sense at all. I mean, why would you change? I mean, clearly, these two are... This is not during active hours, because if it was during their break, then Lemillion and Sun Eater will be in their school uniforms. They're clearly in casual wear. Though, Nerdy-chan, which, by the way, that's how they dress her in the anime, in the Funimation translated that too, where she's clearly in her costume. Now, in the manga, I do have to fault the manga for this. There is no explained reason why she's even in the costume. Did she go on works animation? I don't know. Because they don't say. But that's only a couple of minor bits I didn't like with the episode. But all in all, the episode was really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And don't worry, my very next review, I will be discussing my final thoughts of the season. Alright, moving on to chapter 329, and boy, this has got a long chapter. The title, In the Nick of Time, a Big-Time Maverick from the West. And of course, the cover image is in fact Stars, Stripes and Stars, who's one of All Might's previous students. And, excuse me, the chapter opens with, All for one. A critical moment is at nigh. The escaped convicts and their antics have proved a perfect distraction for keeping short-staffed police and heroes from devoting their full attention to us. We have played a game of hide and seek. On this small island nation we have won. And that's basically what All for One saying that. Spinner's like, we could have also won just by leaving the country. You misread my intent. With this little match, this is a short-term objective, and obtaining one for all is the mid-game goal. The final one? I planned ahead for a long life, and within these plans, this very moment presents me with both the greatest obstacle and the ultimate opportunity. I love that this guy's got a dialogue. I have heaps of friends all over the globe. All Might may have eradicated organized crime here in Japan, but other nations are a different story. Once these friends of mine start stirring trouble, each country will have to weigh its own priorities against the needs of others. Okay, so what's the obstacle? Take the opportunity? Star and Stripe, the strongest woman around, who reigns supreme in the land of the free, the home of the heroes. She strokes up cheap tricks and tactics, which I love the fact they translated that as land of the free, which that is indeed true compared to the idiot in the White House, which I'm not going to discuss that right now. Back to All for One. So this is a gamble. Will prove more a nuisance. But I shall manage to steal her quirk. The rest of the war will be just a formality. Unlike young Toya and the others, you devoted yourself to guarding me. But it is nearly time you take action, Ichi. Days to come, you Spinner will support Tamar Sagaraki and his crusade and do justice in your name. One that spins his tail. You were verbally nobody as a Hemorph. You have led a difficult life. You hear rumblings, don't you? So many others sympathize you from the shadows. And of course he's talking about the fact that what we see, damaged buildings, which is how a lot of Japan is currently. Redestro was inherently a burden to the old way of things. And then we see advertisements for Paramount Liberation. But behold, the sinners of liberation shall burn your light. I have no idea who this guy is. The Way of the Vanguard Support Regiment. Lots talking in the chapter. We're signed under Spinner we are. The great skeptic outlaws his peers tells us now that liberation is here to eliminate what resistance remains this revolution. And then we cut the skeptic. Yes, Master, the warriors, that simplest for you lot. The League rubbed me the wrong way, but their influence has its uses. And then we see Toga. Reader saw herself hope lightly repressed. And then we see Dobby. Yes, Dobby. Who, by the way, I should point out, though, because anybody who is not reading the manga at this point probably is reading this like, wait, why is Dobby's hair white? There's a reason for that. The reason is because he's been dyeing it black. That is mainly the reason for it. And it was revealed toward the end of the previous arc that this guy here is Endeavor's firstborn. Yep. who for some reason had mostly all white hair compared to his siblings. And apparently the one with the best hair was basically Shudo, who had half red, half white. The white comes from his mother, and the red comes from his father, Endeavor. See Dobby doing his own thing, and they're talking like, it makes no difference where the League of Villains are the true liberators destined to accept this burden. Hold them sacred. We shall endow them with divinity. Once Timur Shiraki destroyed all, we shall sow seeds of the future. And then we cut to Hawks and Vestinus. Or it's like, should we enter aerospace soon? At the meetup, we should play him right away. Yeah, of course. It's serious reassuring to have Star on our side. But they're gonna throw the book at her? Her nation may prove our salvation. For quite some time now, I've chatted with her. I've treasured the Vigitim Gold Rush. See here. Deborah listen. Yeah. Right now. On Flyfab. 50 kilometers ahead, it's him. He's showing himself. And then we see, yeah, we're boasting like All Might was known for doing. Such a warm welcome. Even after, even before he even arrived. You're free to do as you please, mister. And Shogo's like, are you the villain called R for One? Good question. What exactly am I? And it's Todoroki riding on top of a Nemu, which that is so hilarious. Yes. But a really good chapter. Yes. It's been a while since All for One showed up in the actual series. I mean, I think the last time physically he showed up was just before that explosion at that mansion a while ago. And can you believe this arc has been going on now for 23 chapters? Yes, this is typically the length of a lot of arcs in the series. And who knows? This might even prove to be almost as long as the last arc. Who knows? Yep. But yeah. Okay, so that's that particular review. Next review is going to be my final thoughts on Season 5. Okay? Next video. Bye.